Hi, ladies. Welcome back to Style Your Dreams. I'm excited to be with you again today. And I have an amazing special guest with me, which I'm so excited about. His name is Dr. Jon Connelly. And I just want to give you some background about why I have him on and how I know him and how I think he can help you. So, I first found out about Dr. Jon on social media. I don't even know how long I've known you, maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm.
And got obsessed with what people were saying about you. And I started, doing a deep dive into what podcasts you've been on and different interviews and YouTube. And I loved everything that I heard. And I was blown away by how transformational your work is. And I've been in the work of, in some regard, of transformation for 30 years, but there was something different about you. And so I reached out, and I think I had probably 4 or 5 sessions with you, and my daughters had a session with you, and they were life changing. And so since I met you, I've been telling a lot of people that I know, clients, friends, whoever I think you could really make a difference for about you. So I wanted to have you on the podcast to explain a little bit about what you do, why it's so transformational, why I adore you, and you're life changing, um, so that people can have access to this
Keri, you're
because
like
I really do.
wonderful. You are the best medicine. I mean, I just feel so good already. I could just sit and listen to you
Oh,
do
well,
whatever you're
really, I'm
doing.
just
It sounds like gushing or gushing or something, but it's sure wonderful.
here. Yeah, well, good. Well, I think you're amazing, and I want the world to know more about you. So, first of all, I first reached out to you probably to have a breakthrough in business. I can't even remember that long ago. But what you did was amazing. And I know that the word therapy is in what you do for
Mhm.
RRT, rapid resolution therapy, but it goes way beyond what people would hear when they traditionally think of therapy. So let's just start there. So what is RRT? What makes it different? What makes it different and how did you come up with it?
Um, well, I came up with it, Keri, because I was trained traditionally and I wanted to make a difference for people. My
Mm,
background was I worked for a number of years um, doing what's called child protective service, meaning I was knocking on doors where there were allegations of abuse or neglect and intervening there. And then I went from that to working 5 years like the clinical supervisor in a short-term residence for runaway, throwaway teens. And
mhm,
so I certainly became aware that people growing up go through sometimes just incredibly awful things and working with lots and lots of teenage runaways. Although living on the street is not a good idea, I can tell you for most of those, it was a better idea than being home. Um, so I got interested then as I moved from that into working with people individually to make shifts and changes. I found that lots of folks were continuing to be negatively affected by prior experiences of all
mhm,
kinds of um, what we call capital T traumas, gang rape, small t traumas. Teacher said something and she felt humiliated. Um, and the way I had learned in school to deal with these things made no sense. I went to some postdoc training, which made even less sense. And then I couldn't find anything that made sense to me. I mean, it made sense to me, and I would try doing it, and then I didn't like what was happening. They were all sort of based on the idea that people continue to be troubled by things because they didn't get feelings out that were triggered at the time. So they seem to be all interested in causing people to be experiencing the place they go to see their therapist as some kind of safe place where they can re-experience the worst times of their lives and finally feel it, uh, to heal it and express it and supposedly let go of it. Um, so that's what I learned. Um, if you talk to one of your listeners who's been in an abusive relationship with a guy who's into raging, um, I don't think she'll tell you, yeah, I feel really comfy today because he was experiencing such rage yesterday. I know we got all of that out and things should be just fine for us. Uh,
Right.
that doesn't work that way. So the whole notion of the solution is to experience it and then express it to release it. It doesn't work. The more people experience and express anger, the more likely they are to feel angry, not
Or
the
feel
less
stuck,
likely.
right?
Yeah. Um,
Right.
so I thought I got to figure out a new way to do this, and that's what I did. And then I figured out some stuff that worked, and we noticed people getting better um, so much, so much differently. So how it's different, the RRT process is different in a number of ways, Keri, and one is that the facilitator takes full responsibility for the um, experience being successful.
I love
In other
that.
words, if I meet with you and it works out well, hooray. And basically the person that I work with gets the credit. But if it doesn't work out well, I know that that was a problem with me rather than a
Mm,
problem with the person that I worked with. And that's very different than the way the mental health industry works. I have yet to hear any mental health professional tell me that people aren't getting better because they lack skill.
right.
Only that people are resistant, aren't ready for change, and don't have
Yep.
enough motivation. So I am concerned. It seems to me the mental health industry blames those people that they failed to assist um, for their own failure. So people who
Yeah.
learn RRT learn first to take responsibility for it. So that's a difference. Another difference is when somebody schedules with me, they schedule a meeting for that's on a single day, and before that day is over, we're done.
Yeah.
That's significantly different than seeing somebody Wednesdays at 3 for the rest of your life. It's one
Right.
day and it's done. Um, a third thing that's different is that I understand that people are feeling, thinking, acting, reacting based on things that that's coming from their mind. It's the way that the mind outside of awareness, unconscious mind, has been processing information. So that's where self-help becomes iffy. Um, if you were consciously doing it, then we could say, well, then stop doing it. But if it's being done unconsciously, how do I say, well, change what you're doing unconsciously? You might say, well, it's not conscious. It's
Right.
like, so how do you do that? And I don't think people can do that. But with the tools that we have, um, we get that done. One of the things that gets done is we pinpoint and painlessly clear the troubling effect that prior experiences are continuing to have on the way people are thinking and feeling and acting. We we know
Yeah.
how to find what it. So let's say someone wants to lose weight, but she continues to fail. Maybe she's successful for a while and then fails. And and you say, well, let me explain some things about nutrition. And she says, yeah, I think I've got that. I'm a nutritionist. Um, so I know exactly how to eat in order to be healthy, and I try to do it, but fail to. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, what we'll do is find where this thing has snagged, which is unconscious, and then
Yeah.
fix it, and then it'll be different for her. We can't say
Mm.
to her, fix it yourself.
No.
She doesn't even know what it is. But from here, I can figure out what it is. It's kind of like just turning a couple of dials, and that works differently then. I met with a young lady just a little while back. And she's lovely. She's in her maybe late 20s, and she said, "I'm afraid of getting murdered," and
Wow.
that was concerning. I thought maybe there was some life event we should be concerned about that just happened. So I
Right.
said, "How long have you been afraid of being murdered?" And she said, "I think since I was about 4." So, okay, there's nothing alarming that just happened, but this
Right.
fear, how often, every day, how often during the day, over and over, how intense, it's really troubling. Um, what a terrible thing to live your life with every day. And so we fixed it. It took about, I think, 20 minutes. It was done
Yeah.
on a solutions version in front of a whole bunch of people. She just sent in a testimonial talking about how life has become so different now that it just no longer occurs to her as a fear. So those are the kind of things we're getting done for people. The stuff that shows up, people come in because they're dealing with relationship issues, or the relationships ended, they're dealing with heartbreak or resentment or shame or guilt or jealousy or fear, anxiety, fear of public speaking, all kinds of phobias. Um, Basically, most of the stuff that goes wrong with the mechanism is um, quickly, painlessly fixable if the if the mechanic you bring it to knows what they're doing to do that. So that's what we offer.
I love it so much because in mindset or anything in life, our mind is so powerful. We don't give it enough credit. It controls everything unless we control it. And there's so many things every day that are challenging us and barriers to us having everything that we want in life, right? So I know in your past you started with trauma, which is amazing because a lot of us have experienced trauma in life. And yet it goes so far beyond trauma to what are, I could say, even our limiting beliefs that we don't even know are our limiting beliefs that continue to perpetuate and hold us back in life. That within a 20-minute conversation with you or one of your practitioners, it could be gone forever. That's pretty miraculous. And some people are going to be like, wait a minute, how is that possible? And be skeptical. So,
Yeah, of
talk to me
course.
about
And
that.
I would certainly be skeptical. And it's possible because the whole paradigm, the way we're looking at things and what we're looking for, is just completely different than what people experience when they interface with the mental health industry.
Mhm.
Um, Mental health industry might, for instance, if you go there and you have feelings that you're unhappy with, you'd likely be encouraged to um, insightfully look back at your life
Yeah.
from early childhood on to try to gain insight as to what things might have happened that might cause you to be in the shape you're in currently. Um, that's painful, expensive, takes a long time, and the other problem with it is that it usually doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, so um, that's what happens there. Then, if they find something, which they're likely to find, then they're looking to cause the individual to experience the pain that they experienced previously more deeply currently.
Yeah.
So if you felt badly while getting raped when you were 16, the solution is to feel even worse at 27 when you go for treatment. I
And then it
this
stays with
I'm
you.
hesitant to tell you this because it sounds like it's not even true, but so many um, women, and I've seen thousands of women around sexual assaults and sexual
Mhm.
violence and childhood stuff, men too, um, um, and 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 these people would often say, yes, this rape was certainly the one of the worst things that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And then I'll hear somebody say, but it wasn't as bad as going to therapy for it.
Wow.
And the first time I heard that,
That's
I
huge.
just like, what? I must have
Yeah.
misheard that. You're telling me that being raped was really bad, but going to treatment for being raped was worse than being raped. And she says,
Mm.
well, not minute for minute. In
Yeah.
other words, the rape was 12 minutes.
Mhm.
Being in therapy for 12 minutes was not worse than being raped for 12 minutes.
Right.
But I wasn't in therapy for 12 minutes. I was in therapy for
Right.
12 years trying to deal with what happened during 12 minutes. And when you add all those minutes up, it was
Yeah.
absolutely worse than the
Absolutely, because
event.
the 12 minutes of experiencing the trauma of getting raped, you're not even in your mind, I
Yeah,
would imagine.
sometimes not.
You can leave your mind. You can go away to deal with
Yeah, some
however you
people
would
have
deal with
that
it.
ability, and then mental health industry is trying to say, well, there you disassociated. Now let's get you back associated into it. When actually
Yeah.
disassociating was a damn good idea,
Healthy,
and
right?
healthy, and so that doesn't have to be redone. Here's the
Yeah.
solution. Mind is reading things as taking place that it that mind experiences as needing something done about them.
Mhm.
Now, because of the way our mind was constructed and is rather dysfunctional, most of the stuff our unconscious mind thinks we should do something about is stuff that isn't in existence.
Mm.
Like it was, perhaps, but it's not. So, for sure, you don't have to do anything about anything that doesn't exist. And
Mm.
yet, the impressions from these things that no longer exist are then stuck within the mind and they get activated when anything similar happens. So she says to you, I don't get it. I was raped, but my husband has got to be the gentlest, kindest, most protective, loving guy. I love him so much. And the other day, we're sitting watching a television show together at home, and he's so loving and he says kind things to me. And then he put his hand on my knee, and I almost hit him.
Mm.
And that's my husband, and I love him so much. And I felt this immediate rage as he touched my leg. I want him to touch my leg. I don't want him.
Yeah.
He didn't rape me,
No.
and he has nothing in common with who raped me. Well, is he a man? Was that person a man? Um, were they both humans? Uh, there is enough in common that it triggered you.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough that you think it ought to have triggered you, but there was certainly enough that it triggered you. People generally have a bunch of things that are getting triggered that are outside of their awareness they don't even know about, and it's affecting the way they're experiencing um, things that are taking place because something happens, husband touches knee, and and this other stuff starts shaking inside, which might become conscious, but might not. And maybe she just feels like, whoa, that touch caused that reaction.
Yeah.
Um, all of it
So,
is fixable.
yeah, I love that. And a lot of so can we talk a little bit about how you disappear things like limiting beliefs that you have? Can we go into
Yeah.
that a little bit?
Um, a belief
Okay.
is, well, first, people might think of a belief as a thing, or they
Right.
might think of themselves as a believer.
Mm-hmm.
I am a believer in this. That's me. Well, the first thing is let's get that bel belief can be thought of as a verb rather than a noun.
Like something you do.
Believe,
Mm-hmm.
believe. Okay. And then we can, um, now we're looking at it as something that's being done. We can find um, uh, those that are those beliefs that are um, working against the individual, and there are probably a
Mm-hmm.
ton of them.
Yep.
Um, and once that belief, then um, we identify it, and I'd say we put it in the light, meaning we put it where somebody can judge it. And it's
Mm.
judged based on two things, but primarily, is it useful? And then
Okay.
we, and if she says, "No, it's certainly not useful, it's screwing me up," then we can cause, um, we can cause mind to stop doing that believing, even though the believing might not be being done consciously at all, and that individual might not be even believing it consciously. So maybe
Right.
there's, she tells you she'd like to lose weight, and she starts to lose weight, and then somebody compliments her, and she goes out and eats a whole cake, and
Right.
then says, what's wrong here? Well, do you really want to lose weight? Yes, yes, so much more than anything. Well, let's give it
Mm.
another shot. And okay, it's working well, it's working well, it's working well. And then she notices, wow, I look pretty good in this. And whoop, buy another pie and eat it. What's going on with that? Um, well, something is going on. There's some belief about what may take place if she loses this weight that she doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
consciously know. So maybe it's, oh, I um, I read an article when I was 22 doing a research project, and and researching the article, I read a story about a gal who lost a lot of weight and then got raped.
Mm.
So
And she
there's the
doesn't want that.
belief that if I lose a lot of weight, maybe I'll get raped. And I don't like being overweight, but I like it better than being raped. But there's not even
Yeah.
any conscious awareness that that's going on inside.
Makes
But
sense.
we figured out how to pinpoint it and erase it,
Yeah.
pinpoint it and erase it. But since the person isn't consciously doing it, it seems to me to not make sense to tell them to consciously stop doing it. I notice people in coaching and mental health are saying to people, why don't you let that go? As if the person was
Right.
holding it. We're not holding
Right.
these beliefs. It's, if I'm holding a pen, I can let it go. If I'm believing something, um, you can't just drop it like it was a pen in your hand. But we can get inside people's mind, flip it and shift it and make it significantly different. By the way, the thing that I love doing this with people, and I feel so lucky I get to do this. But the thing I love more than doing it is teaching other people to do it, because
Yeah.
that way, I mean, 'cause I can't, I don't have time to meet with everybody in the world. But if I can teach people how to do this,
Yeah.
then those people can affect others. So I love to teach it, and I'll be teaching a course called Foundation of Rapid Resolution Therapy soon. And the aim of the course, Keri, is one, to make sure that everybody who's in there experiences personally a significant life-changing breakthrough.
Yeah.
Secondly, to equip these people as to how they can be um, really wonderful for others who they care about when the people they care about are going through terrible times. I mean, what
Yep.
do you say to your teenage daughter when she's always wanted to be a cheerleader and gets turned down? Or what do you
Right.
say to her when her cat dies? How do you
Mm-hmm.
deal with the tragedies in other people's lives in a way that you can support and lift them? Keri,
Yeah.
I
So
remember, I
powerful.
haven't thought of this in a long time, but I'll share it with you. I remember early in my life, I think I'm fifth grade, I found out my close friend's father died. And you know what I did? I hid.
What?
I didn't
Mm.
want to see my friend. That's awful. My friend's
Yeah.
father died, and I did everything I could to avoid him because I had
Mm.
no clue as to what I was supposed to say. And I
Yeah.
thought I would say something stupid that would make me look like a jerk and make it worse for him. Um,
Which people do all
and
the time.
ye- well, yeah, people do it all the time. Um, so
Yeah.
the other thing this class does is it teaches you how to really effectively deal with friends and family members and loved ones when they're hurting. The third thing it does is teach you a skill and concepts that can be quite a lucrative career if people want to pick this up and do it. So we have a bunch of people training with me who are in the mental health field, psychiatrists,
Yeah.
psychologists, counselors. We have a bunch of people who can call themselves coaches and mentors.
Yeah.
And we have a whole lot of people that would like to perhaps get into having this as a fascinating and interesting career, and they're just coming to it saying, no, I haven't been doing it. I've been doing something completely different, but I want to know how to do this. I want to know how to be a healer. I want to know how to
I
get
love it.
people transformed. I want to know how to
I love
make a
it.
difference. And that's what we teach. Um, Love to
Awesome.
have you folks jump into it. Starts on the 10th
Yeah. It
of
starts May
May
10th,
at
right?
10 in the morning Eastern time. And use that code, which is
Yeah. We'll link
Shift
the code in the
25.
show notes. But what is it?
Thank you. Shift 25.
Shift 25 for
Shift.
25% off. I
Yeah.
love it. Can I
And
share with you a couple things that I
please,
would love to share
everything.
with the audience? A couple things that have really impacted me out of knowing you.
Yes, that'd be
Um,
lovely to hear.
okay, good. Because I've had some major shifts, and one thing um, is grief. And I know you wrote a book about grief, which we'll also link. And grief is I've referred lots of people to you that are dealing with grief. Because grief is a tricky thing for most people, um, because it's an emotion that can, I don't know, swallow you up at points, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't have to. And So that's one of the big issues I worked with you on was my mom had passed and my mom was my best friend and I talked to her every day and it had probably been a year and a half since she died when I met you. Oh, I'm still tearing up about it. But I was really struggling. I was crying every day, deep, deep despair. Didn't know like how to operate in life anymore. And I met with you about it. And probably 30 minutes in or 40 minutes in, I don't know quite what you did to me except for zebras and lions and lots of strange things. And at the end of our session, I had such profound love for my mom and the profound grief disappeared. And so, just to fast forward, that's probably been, gosh, a year since I worked with you on this. And I have days where I miss my mom, but then I just talk to her. And there are times when I cry because I miss my mom and I just talk to her. And there's no more profound grief in my life. Like I feel free of that, I don't know, being swallowed up by that emotion. And so I'm so, so grateful for that because I think that's one thing we have really messed up in life is how grief has to look for us. And it has to look a particular way. And if you really loved someone, then you're grieving deeply. And that's just not the case. And so, why I tell so many people about you for grief in particular is because of the freedom that it gave me, that it doesn't have to go that way. And so, when I see people suffering about their loved one passing, suffering so much that they can't experience the memories of joy and of love, I think it's so profound that in a very short conversation that you're able to let go of that and um, enjoy life again. And that doesn't mean forget about the person. That doesn't mean move on. It just means you have a freedom and a newfound love for the person. So
Freedom,
that's one
newfound
thing.
love, and a deeper connection, for continuing
Yeah.
to experience the ongoing love. Um, so
Yeah.
the
Cause
way,
my mom wasn't able to be present for me because I was in such deep suffering. And now
absolutely.
she's present every day. Like every day I talk to her and tell her like thanks for being here and I see more signs that she's with me and life just has so much more freedom.
So, Keri, you probably know that there's a whole grief industry. Um,
Yeah.
um, and one significant part of the industry dealing with grief is the United States Veterans Administration,
Mhm.
because people in battlefield situations can become incredibly close and caring toward each other. And so, if people in a situation like that um, to see their close ally there killed in front of them, and they go home, and he never does. Um,
Yeah.
that's a huge source of stuff that the Veterans Administration is attempting to deal with around their
Mm,
attempts to deal with things like PTSD. A big part of it
mhm.
is grief, guilt, shame,
Yeah.
and surviving. That's one area of it, and um, I would say that the way that they and others primarily deal with grief in our country is to believe that the reason it's that the solution to it is to experience more of it. And
Yes.
so when people go for treatment for grief, they are encouraged to grieve more deeply. The understanding is like, well, the reason you're still grieving is because you haven't gotten it out yet. So
Yeah.
if we can just help you to feel bad enough, maybe you'll be able to stop feeling as bad. Um, and
Which
and
doesn't work.
and so for you, it was how long that your mom had passed until you and
It
I
was
met?
probably a year and a half.
So it's a year and a half of feeling really severe pain
Mhm.
very
Yeah,
regularly. Yet if you had gone for treatment, I can
which I was going
tell you,
to, and I would still be suffering.
well, they would tell you that the problem was that you hadn't done enough of the suffering.
Yeah.
And so then the whole thing turns around where they're
Mhm.
trying to get you to suffer so
Right.
that you will get it out, or something. And
And
that
what a shitty way to
process can
live.
be, yeah, the process can be so incredibly painful that like a lot of these
Mhm.
veterans who then are told, okay, now come on in for treatment, it's free, and we'll help you with the grief, say, I'm too scared to go there. I mean, they're
Yeah.
not too scared to go crawl around and get shot at, but they're too scared to go see a social worker who is going to be attempting to get them to let go of it, but by feeling it. And
Mhm.
the thing that I would bring to the table there is that we can cause grief to disappear. It's not a painful process, and
Mhm.
it honors the loved person.
Yeah.
Um, I started kind of reading, I didn't read all those books on grief before I wrote mine, but I read the um, the blurb
Mhm.
describing what I'd be reading. And what I noticed, every one of them said, um, you have a right to experience grief,
Mhm.
and grief is love, and
Mm.
and so if you love, you grieve,
Yep.
and don't let anybody try to stop you. And I thought,
Yep.
everybody is saying the same thing, that you have a right to be miserable. And my response
Yeah.
is, not on my watch, you don't.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think you have
You
a
know what's
right
funny?
to
I
be
talked to a
miserable.
I
Sorry?
talked to a therapist before. I said, you know what? I talked to a therapist before I saw you about the grief. It was a phone consultation to see if we wanted to work together. And my mom had passed, and then my stepdad passed 6 weeks later. And in between that time, my aunt passed. So, three very important people in my life
One,
passed
two,
in six
three.
weeks. And she said, oh my gosh, well, that gives you at least 3 years to not be responsible for your life. Like you get that free pass, and you need to tell people in your life that you get a free pass now. And I thought about that for a couple weeks. I kind of liked it in the beginning, right? Like, yeah, don't hold me accountable for anything. I have a free pass. And then I was like, but that's not how I want to live my life. I don't want a free pass because people passed. Like, I want freedom. That's what I wanted. I
Oh
wanted
my
the
goodness.
freedom, which is
Yeah, you're
what
giving me
working with you
goosebumps,
gave me.
Keri, the way you
Yeah.
phrase that. It's actually, it's like so inspiring, and it's so clear,
Mhm.
and yet that's it. And and I got to get in the way of that. I mean,
Yeah.
it breaks my heart to think that that's about to happen. Some mother is just found out that her 12-year-old, got shot probably by going to school, and
Mhm.
and now she's going to be sent for grief counseling, where they're going to tell her, now what you got to do is feel miserable for a long time because you're a loving
Right.
person, and
Right.
so you no longer have to take care of yourself, um,
Yep.
or your business or your life or your other children or your husband,
Right.
or it's like, what?
Like your life is over. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
which
And
is insane.
and people say to people whose child passed frequently, that's an unendurable pain, and of course it
Mhm.
will never end.
Mhm.
Can you
Yep,
imagine going over to
which isn't
people who are
true.
in pain and looking at them and saying with reassurance, the pain will never end? And we do that to people all the time. And then it's kind of implied that if the pain goes away, I guess you didn't love your kid that much.
Yeah, which is
Um,
societal. That is what we say in
yeah,
society. The challenge for me in talking about your work about grief is, to be honest, it works so well. And I hate to see people, in that deep pain. My challenge is how quickly do I share it? Like, your wife just passed away last week. Oh, probably too soon to share about Dr. John because they got to go through something.
yeah.
But I don't know why.
And a bunch of
Like,
people
what?
would have that thought that there's at least a period of time that
Yes,
suffering is supposed to happen, and then maybe
right.
if it's about a few months, we could start to
6 months,
lessen it.
I think.
I would I would like to clear the negative effect of really terrible things immediately. I
Yeah.
um I mean, you might ask the same question about rape. How
Yeah.
long after the rape should somebody go for treatment? I had
Immediately.
an amazing experience, Keri. I had a gal who trained with me who set up a program based on what she had learned to help people who had been raped in her area, and even created a program with the hospital where these people would come in a separate entrance and be treated with real dignity and kindness. It was phenomenal what she did.
Yeah.
And she said, please come. I want to show you and I want to introduce you to everybody and see what has happened as a result of what I've learned from you. And I'm there with her. My goodness, I don't remember this one in a long time either. And we're just sitting and really liking each other and what we're doing together. And it's a
Mhm.
celebration. And her phone rings and she just says, I need to get it. It's my daughter. And she picks up the phone and then her face turns white and she hangs up the phone and says, my daughter told me she got raped this morning.
Oh my God.
So ironic. There we are talking about rape programs, and we're so excited about putting it together. My daughter told me she got raped this morning, and I
Mm.
said, well, is she busy? Because I'm not too busy for your daughter. I'm here anyway. And I ended
Right.
up then meeting with and getting that gal in significantly
Mm.
better shape around this sexual trauma, but it was like 2 hours ago.
Yeah. What a
Um,
gift.
so in my world, there's no certain amount of suffering you're supposed to experience before you end the pain.
Yeah. No, I
So
love
how
that.
soon after somebody is experiencing grief, I would say, you know, a few minutes.
Right away. Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah, right away.
On a less significant uh note, I want to share something else that was really
Please.
valuable about working
Oh,
with you.
that's exciting. What is it there?
So, you met with Stella, my daughter. Do you
Hmm.
remember meeting with Stella? The delightful, amazing little love that she is.
Yes.
And this was big. So, since Stella was born, she had been having stomach issues. Like, she was always in pain every day. I can't remember a day that she didn't say, Mommy, my stomach hurts.
Oh,
And it was like painful. And I remember I first talked to you about it and said, do you think there's something you can do for her? Because we were about to go the medical route. And in fact, you said, well, we can try it, but you may need to go the medical route was we don't really know what's going on. But I was 100% sure that it was mental. I just knew in my soul, mom's intuition, it was something was going on with her mentally that had her start to have stomach aches. So you spent a couple sessions with her. And I love how you work with kids because you do it in bite-sized chunks that they can understand, and
How
it's so
old was she when
nurturing.
I met with her?
10,
Okay. Yeah,
she's
go
now
ahead.
11. So she was 10, and you met with her, and so since that day that you met with her, she doesn't have stomach pain, which is a miracle.
That's
Now,
astonishing.
she's had a stomach ache like maybe once every 6 months, as is normal for people.
Yeah,
But her constant stomach pain is gone. It disappeared. And if I were to ask her, how did that happen? She would never be able to communicate how. She just knows that in working with you for a very, very short period of time, it's disappeared. And I think that's the power of your work is that it
I'm
doesn't
so
matter what
excited
it
to
is.
hear that. And
Mm-hmm.
we're getting some very exciting results with people who are dealing with medical issues. Um, so you mentioned with your daughter, you thought it made sense for her to have this kind of intervention because you believed that it wasn't physical.
Yeah.
The thing I would tell you is that yes, if somebody's sick and it's not being caused by a medical definable thing, of course it
Hmm.
makes sense for us to connect and get your mind so that you're okay. But if somebody is sick and there is a medical issue,
Yes.
I mean, as much a medical issue as he just got burned from a fire,
Yep.
uh, uh, that kind of any kind of medical issue, we can do things from here that will be profound for people
Hmm.
who are addressing an actual medical concern, as well as people who um, maybe your daughter was, or maybe you were correct and it was all just um, uh, something that was in some ways psychological rather
Hmm.
than medical. But even if it is medical, we welcome the opportunity to um, shift things. Everybody knows that there are things you can do to somebody's body that will make their mind feel better. A
Yeah.
massage, go jogging, do yoga.
Hmm.
People know there are things you can do with somebody's body that will make their mind feel worse. Hit him in the face with a rock. He'll be in a bad mood. And we know there are things you can do with somebody's mind that would make their body have trouble, like scream at the guy all day, every day, and then he has headaches and ulcers.
Yeah.
Um, but the fourth rung of the table is just as much there and is not recognized. And that is there are all kinds of things we can do through this process with effective communication and influence over the unconscious that causes the healing in the body to take place with far more speed and depth.
Yeah.
So if somebody
That's
has a
awesome.
diagnosable condition, it really makes sense to come in. If somebody has a non-diagnosed condition, it makes sense to come in too.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense
Either
because they
way,
work
we can
together.
do, and I'm delighted. Please remember me to her. What a really special little lady
I
you
will.
have there.
I
She's
will, thanks.
a little
She loved her
sunbeam.
time with you.
Yeah, she's so sweet.
It's so great. So, I was wondering, I was just thinking as we were talking, is it possible to do some uh so there's a technique that you did with me that's been really impactful. And if it's sharing your secrets, then we don't need to do it, but I don't know that it's really sharing your secrets. But I think that the I don't know what you call it. I call it like the release technique that you taught me about the bow and arrow.
Hmm.
Is it possible to do that to give people just a little
Oh, sure.
nugget?
Sure, it's just a
Okay,
little thing you
great.
can do right away from
Because I think it makes
wherever.
such a big impact.
And the thing I would tell you, Carrie, is goodness, I'm really trying to have a larger microphone rather than do better at keeping things secret. I I want to get
Great,
this out. I want to get people better.
great.
I want to get people past suffering. That's why we do. I should mention that 6 times a month I do workshops that are 2 to 3 hours that everyone is invited to come to, and it's free. You can come as much as you want, and people
Mhm.
have addressed all kinds of very significant issues for themselves in that framework, and they pay nothing and they get better. So
I love
the
it.
person I told you about with the fear of getting murdered,
Mhm.
that happened there. I met her
Great.
online in a room full of people. She raised her hand, told me about it, and 20 minutes later, that was gone. So here's the process that you asked about. I would ask your listeners to, well, let me think a bit about the difference between what we're doing here with intention and what happens when people are intending around what they call manifestation.
Okay.
So with manifestation, the intention is to affect the world directly.
Yes.
I want to cause these opportunities to come my way,
Yes.
perhaps with what and that's fine. I have close friends that are really good at doing that and teaching it. Um,
Mhm.
but it's not what I'm doing. What I'm
Yes.
saying is, um, if we were looking to improve your life, what would we shift about the way that you automatically think, feel, act, react, interact, do things? What would shift within what you're doing that would be at least on the way to where you're heading? So, let's say somebody was feeling isolated and lonely. Um, well, what would be on the way to that shifting is just engaging in unnecessary conversations with people you don't know. Which, how do you do that? Well, you just, when you see this gal in the grocery store, you look at her and find something to compliment.
Mhm.
Um, wow, I really like this, and engage, and then engage with her again the next time you see her and keep expanding. So how do you do that? So the first thing that would be done here around the process you're mentioning is to have something in mind. The easiest way for me to show this is probably to just do it with you. So
Let's do it.
if there's so if today we can make a difference, shift, change, or improve something in the way you think, feel, act, react, interact, then what should we get done for you personally, my friend Keri?
Okay, for me, um, that let's see. I just switched gears with my company and I now have a new company and um I have this thought that it's hard to start over.
Hmm.
Like it's really
Um,
difficult to start over. Like I've achieved the level of success and now I'm shifting. So now I've got to start over and work really, really hard.
yes. So if you do you ever clean up around your own house?
Uh-huh.
You ever clean up your kitchen?
Yep.
You ever clean up your bathroom?
Yes. I
So if
pick
you
up. I don't
finish,
clean.
well, right, but pick up,
Okay.
organize, that kind of cleaning.
Yeah. Yes.
You do that in the kitchen
I do every day.
and maybe the bathroom.
Yep.
So let's say you just finished the kitchen, and next you're going to do the bathroom.
Okay.
So you walk into the bathroom and then you say, "Oh man, now I got to start over,"
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
No, that's not right, is it? You just
No,
say,
I would never say
I
that.
got, I'm done with the kitchen. Now I have some time to get the bathroom straightened up
Yeah.
and organized. So you have been successful in a career which is so wonderful. You enable many women to just be more at ease, comfortable, outgoing, and okay because there's so much um, concern about appearance, and you're so good at making people look even much more pleasing and better. So there you've done that. Now you're going to do something else. You're not starting the first thing over. You're just
Mm.
doing something else. You finished the kitchen. Now go do the bathroom. Um, um, and so the whole notion of starting over doesn't have to any longer get in your way. But what I'm seeing for you is that as you're moving forward in this new endeavor, that you experience clear, which means that you um, automatically see opportunities and seize opportunities, and they just show up. And so your mind is showing you, hey, you can do this, you can do that, you can get that done, you can do that, you can do that. And you see it, and it's clear, and then you find yourself doing it, and then you're satisfied. That's what I'm looking toward for you. Sound okay? And
Love it. Yes,
and
please.
the way you want this process you thought I would share with others would go kind of like this.
Hmm.
So if we think about the energy that's going to fuel your creativity and your ability to see the solution. Do you know what I mean? See the solution?
Yes.
I, I I saw a thing on the wall. It was like a drawing. It's sort of a bunch of lines and dots, and it said, um, "Find the turkey." And so I'm looking at this thing. There's no freaking turkey, but I mean, it's got my interest, so I keep looking at it. And then I started getting a little paranoid. I said, "There's got to be some kind of hidden camera." And the way this thing is going to work is they're going to jump out and say, yeah, look at you looking at a bunch of dots looking for a turkey. You know where the turkey is? It's you. So I'm like waiting for that. But I don't want to really leave it, but I don't want to stay there much longer. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm looking at this frickin' thing, and all of a sudden there's a turkey. I mean, it turned into a turkey.
Wow.
You've seen things like that. It's like a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff, and you look at it, and whoop, there's the turkey. So I said, that is so cool. I want to do that again. So I looked away and I looked back, to see the line so I could turn them into its turkey, but it was a turkey. So I said, okay, how do I get back to the lines? I better walk around for about 5 minutes, give them a chance to reset back to just a bunch of lines. I walked for 20 minutes to make sure it would be all set up for me. I came back, there was a turkey. After I saw the turkey, I didn't know how to not see the turkey.
Mm.
You're going to see the solution, and then you're not going to know how to not see it. And the solution is going to be like, wow, that will do that. That'll work. And so you're going to be guided by your mind coming up with these wonderful, uh, creative solutions moving this new endeavor forward.
Mm.
So if we could think about that, that sounds okay with you?
Yes,
Then you and I
absolutely.
have the same intention, purpose, and vision. Our energies coming together. What would be a good color to represent the energy that's coming together for us?
Like a cobalt blue.
So, um, the fear, the misgivings, the false thoughts about, oh, now I got to start all
Mhm.
over. We want to get rid of that. It was incorrect and useless. So the way
Hmm.
you'll get rid of it in a moment is you'll just take a big breath. When you exhale, you'll exhale slow. You'll slowly close your eyes at the same time. And as you're breathing out, just see yourself breathing out something that's either dark or gray. And that
Okay.
will be the fear that's been in the way. So here we go. Big breath goes in and eyes closed and blow out the dark. Shh. Completely. Every ounce of air, blow it out. You got it, then open your eyes. Perfect. The next time you do that, you're going to do the same thing. But after the air is completely gone, you just shift to cobalt blue and inhale that beautiful color along with the words clear and free. Clear,
Okay.
free, cobalt blue is what you're going to inhale. Dark or gray is what you will exhale. Do it now. Eyes closed and blow it out. Blow it all out, every bit of it out. Then shift. Beautiful cobalt blue, clear and free all the way in, filling your lungs, and then eyes pop open. So that's it. Um, if you do just that, which might take you, well, if you did it 6 times a day, probably take you a whole minute altogether. If you did that 6 times a day, it'll change your life in a huge way. As simple as it works because the unconscious understands it.
Mm.
People are often trying to create changes by talking to themselves, but they talk to themselves in ways that themselves don't understand.
Yeah.
And so, how can that work?
And can you use this with any limiting beliefs that you have?
Um, I don't know about any. And sometimes, as you and I did, it's useful to have somebody else that knows what they're doing to crisp it up a bit because
Okay.
um, it that belief, now I have to start over, was there and okay, but it couldn't withstand the light. So when I kind of held it up and put the light on it and said, let's look at this thing, Keri, then you were looking at it and saying, well, that makes no sense. Not
Mm.
starting anything over. Completed that, now I'm doing this. Um, and that shifted it. So sometimes it's good
Mhm.
to have somebody provide some clarity on how you're going to shift that. But yes, you can aim that at many different things. Um, and again, if people showed up in the solutions meetings, you get to just learn a whole lot about how to do this and without ever having to raise your hand. Most of the letters we get talking about how much better people feel are from people that I never even spoke to. They're just
Yeah.
sitting in the audience
I
watching.
love that. And what I can see from working with you, and I did a course with you a while ago, what I can see is that your course can really help someone in any profession. So you don't have to be a therapist. You don't even have to be a coach. I could see it would work with a financial advisor and really getting deep with their client,
We
or
have
an
attorneys and
accountant, or someone who,
physicians and
yeah, like
and
anyone who cares about people and
yeah,
wants to make a difference with people.
that's who it's
Um,
for.
this course could make a huge difference for. And I just
Yeah,
want to
thank
point to
you.
that because I don't want people to think, oh, well, I'm not a
No,
therapist or a coach. So,
you don't have to be
or
any of those
families,
things.
or
Um,
with your, like you said earlier, like with your kids, being more present and being a great parent, which everyone who's a parent has that commitment.
yeah, I'm
So
so
I love that.
excited. I just keep realizing that your little girl has remained in good shape. I'm so
I
happy
know.
to hear
I'm
about
so
that.
grateful.
She made
I
such an
really,
impression on me.
mm,
A sweetheart. And Now
I'm
she
so
doesn't
grateful.
have a tummy hurting her anymore.
I
Uh,
know. And now she can just be in life and make people laugh and have a great time in life and not worry about this tummy pain. So I think the work that you're doing is amazing. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm grateful for your commitment to healing people. And for those people that are listening, there's a couple things. So, A, if you think the course would be the right um, course of action for you to learn this technique and it would make a difference in your life and for people in your life, I'll link that in the show notes and you get 25% off. And then I love the solutions, which I'll link as well in the show notes, where you can show up on a Monday and it's free. And you can see Dr. Jon working with people one on one and raise your hand to have him work with you and see the real life benefits. And people can also read your books if they want to read your books. And I think lastly, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can also find a practitioner all over the country who's certified in this
all over the
technique
world.
all over the world.
Yeah, I just
Awesome.
came
Thank
back
you.
from Amsterdam where there was a wonderful
Mm,
gathering of people that have been training in this.
I love
Um,
it.
so we're getting out. We have people training with me who live in Africa, who live in China,
Wow.
um, who are, you know, Australia, Europe, all over the place. Um, People are looking to have lives um, that work and that feel good, and they're
Yeah.
looking for how can I get there? And people have been willing to do some really difficult, painful, expensive things in order to improve things,
Yeah.
like be in therapy for a long time. But
Right.
I like to get it quick and easy for people, painless
Yeah.
and fun, and we can
I
do
love
that.
that.
Thank you, Keri, for your
And
amazing
mm,
friendship and being such a star out there. Um,
I adore you. Thank you. You're
Quickly,
you're
before you go,
amazing.
your new business, what are you going to do?
I'm doing coaching and mindset. So I've been doing this for 30 years
Yeah,
and I've been doing it in the umbrella of dressing people.
yes.
I've always incorporated your mindset and coaching. And now I'm just doing it without dressing. So I still
Are you
have my
still
dressing business.
dressing some people?
I am just my high level executives. And then, but I want to make a bigger difference for people. And that's why I'm now working with people on. It's funny, Jon, you know this, but um, a lot of people think like, oh, I work on my mindset. I notice my thoughts. I can control myself or what have you. But day in and day out, people have no idea what's running the show, which is why your work is so valuable and why my work is so valuable, is that if you actually took on um, listening to your thoughts and what actually is going on, that's one way to cause major breakthroughs. And then there's things that you can't see that we can't impact, and that's where they go to you for.
It's lovely to connect with you again. I'm so excited that you're doing this as well as continuing to get people beautiful. So,
Yeah.
hooray for everything you're doing there. And
Mm.
if this was so much fun, if you ever have somebody last minute stand you up and you wonder who you're going to meet with, please think about calling me. I'd love to be a regular with you. You
Yeah,
do so,
I will.
so
I will.
wonderful to
Thank you.
visit
I
with you.
adore you and I appreciate everything that you do for people. And I am going to scream from the rafters, from the rooftops, all about you. And, I hope thousands, hundreds of thousands of women listen to this and are ready to make the change that they've been wanting. So you're
Be
amazing.
well, Keri. Thank you so much, dear. You're so lovely.
Great to be with you.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Oh my gosh, ladies, thank you for staying to the end. It was such a pleasure to have Dr. Jon Connelly on the podcast. Gosh, I've been wanting that to happen for a while. He's so impactful and so amazing. And I hope you'll take advantage of his resources and anything that he can help you out with. It is life changing. And like always, if this podcast, if you love it, if it's making a difference for you, if you could share, if you could rate us, give us a 5-star rating and review us and tell your friends about us, I'd love to help spread the word. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being with us. Until next time.